Hi everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Chaos Battletome, the Skaven for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. This is the latest in, I guess, what we're going to call the Amalgamation Battletome series from Games Workshop, taking a whole bunch of different keywords and pounding them together into a faction, sort of like the Gloomspite Gitz did with goblins. So no longer do the Skaven have to be sort of a disparate force that are all based upon what clan they're from. They all get together into the pack of insanity that the Skaven used to be in old Warhammer Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th edition, where the clans are unified under the Council of 13. Even the Council of 13 is back. We'll talk a bit about the, and then there's the Shadow Council, and then there's the Great Horn Rat. We'll talk a little bit about the machinations of the Skaven as I give you my too long didn't read version of the background, and we'll do a flip through the book right now. Now this is a big one. It comes in at 128 pages, and there's a lot to cover because this one takes all the keywords, all the different clan keywords, and throws them together. So you've got Squire, you've got Pestilence, you've got the ruling clan, whatever they're called. I should call it the ruling clan, the first clan, the leaders, the Grey Seers, basically. The Master Clan, that's what they're called. And all the other various sort of like Vermintide stuff all pounded together. And so there's a lot of profiles to go through here. And yeah, we're gonna give it a go right now. So expect this to be a long one. Strap yourselves in for Warhammer Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Chaos Battletome, Skaven. So here it is, Chaos Battletome, Skaven. I started doing these reviews as flip throughs just recently because one of the things I realized when I was doing my reviews before, just sort of like me reading and talking, is you didn't get the full impression of the book. This is a really chunky book. Actually, even if you compare it to the Flesh Eater Courts one, it's about a third again as big. This one, the Flesh Eater Courts one, is 88 pages compared to the 128 pages of this one. And a ton of it is the background of like what's been going on with the Skaven. And it's actually pretty interesting, talking about how the Great Horn Rat basically saves a couple Skaven from the world that was, including Thanquol, who just refuses to die, and then seeds them into the mortal realms after the great ending of the previous age. So some nice new art. You got some Caradhran Overlords fighting Thanquol and Bone Ripper, and you know the various Squire things that they like to fight. I like this guy's doing the Matthew McConaughey and Rain of Fire jump towards Bone Ripper there. It's not going to end well for that guy. And you get this in full color later on too. Some great art. You can see even just the border art. It's not John Blanche, but it's definitely aping John Blanche. And then you've got your background, the Skaven, the Horn Rat, the war between the clans, Gnawholes and what they are. So the new terrain feature and the Endless Spells are the key new add-on here. They're really the only new models you're going to get in this line. But the Gnawholes are a big part of the army. They're free, they come in every army, and they allow you 3 access points basically that only your Skaven can use, that you can jump around between the table with. And also augments your casting and dispelling, which is pretty cool. And then just like the history stuff, all the different clans, everything from Squire, Pestilence, Verminous, Molder, Eshin, and the Master Clan, which is the Grey Seers, who think they're in charge of everything. The Verminlords, who are the Shadow Council, that's actually manipulating the Council of 13. And then all of the other things that you've got, such as the technology and stuff. Your painting section, the Felltalon Swarm, so all of your like neat picture-y stuffs and painting your Skaven. The Skaven Tide, so your Allegiance abilities, Path to Glory, War Scrolls, and you can see here there are a pile of War Scrolls. It goes from page 92 to page 126. So yeah, there is a ton to get through here. 38 plus 26, 34 pages of War Scrolls. It's a lot. You can see it's the Fight the Storm Bros. I do my best to like search these pictures for unreleased miniatures because there's a game that I think Games Workshop plays with, so occasionally they just hide an unreleased miniature in the back of the book somewhere, and I like to hunt for them, but I haven't spotted any yet. If you intrepid people spot some later on, let me know. Background, so Blight City. Blight City basically spans all the realms. And it's connected by Gnawholes. And we'll talk about Gnawholes in a minute, but the too long didn't read version of all this is that the Horn Rat sneaks basically out of the cracks in the Realm of Chaos where he lives and seeds Skaven into the new mortal realms when they get created in the first age. And then they multiply and they build Blight City. And no one really knows if Blight City was an old Skaven city that they took, or if it was like a city built by the Dwarden and men that they overthrew or whatever. But it's now all Skaven-y and it's there to stay. And what they really go into in here, which I think is kind of cool, is the psychology of the Skaven. And the Skaven psychology, I think it's really reflected in the rules of the book, and also in the writing just generally in this book too. And it's that all of the Skaven believe are the best. Even the lowliest slave thinks that he is like destined to greatness, but at the same time they all have this incredible inferiority complex and paranoia. So they're a race at war with themselves, and if they ever got rid of that defining trait, it's the one thing that keeps them from just overthrowing the entirety of like all the realms, is the fact that they can never actually unify long enough to get anything done. And that even though they're all convinced of their own superiority, they will all betray and backstab each other forever, which I think is hilarious and incredibly appropriate. But they make a really big deal of talking about the psychology of that in here, and I think that's really well pointed out basically as to why haven't they just taken over? Well, it's because they're all crazy and like deeply flawed. Some more great art, fighting some more Dwarden. This is the color version of that black and white stuff that's in the slipcover in the inside case. Try and show you this without some. There you go. That's better. Get the glare off this from the lights. My studio is very well lit, but it's not diffused, so if you're looking at shiny things, you can see them everywhere. But a beautiful piece of art. There's Thankful and Bone Ripper. I'm glad they wrote him into the background. I mean, they're creatures of chaos. Like, they can just be around forever. They can be endless and eternal. But it's such a great miniature from the end times. I'm glad they kept it around and didn't get rid of it. Just like Nagash, he's an iconic piece of the old world that's taken into the Age of Sigmar, which I think is really cool. And he's just a gorgeous model. And the Horn Rats, talking about the Council of 13. So the Council of 13 and the Shadow Council are two different things. The Council of 13 is the 12 heads of clan, and then the sort of like the seat for the Horn Rat that occasionally a Verminlord will come in and take over. And then the Shadow Council is actually this, which is where all of the Verminlords live. The 13 Verminlords are the most powerful. And they have their own plan, and basically they're either telling the Skaven, the Council of 13 what to do, or they're manipulating them into doing it. And like the fact that they're always paranoid, even the Verminlords are like paranoid manipulating everyone, is why nothing ever completely works out. But there's the Great Horn Rat and the Realm of Chaos, and all of the Verminlords like hanging out and chatting with each other, being crazy. There's a Gnawhole. That's what a Gnawhole I guess looks like. Yeah, it's not, you wouldn't want a vacation here. This definitely looks like the kind of place where if you sat down in one place for too long, you would like start weeping custard or, you know, growing tentacles or something. War between the clans, so why is it never stay together basically? And this goes on and on, man. It goes through all the different clans. You can see here just the underpinnings of all of them. Pestilence, Verminous. Verminous is basically the clan, like the war clan, if you want to give them a name. Because all of the Skaven clans are kind of loosely based upon chaos gods, right? So Pestilence is Nurgle. Verminous is kind of Khorne. Squire obviously is kind of Tzeentch. And then Molder, the big beast. I don't know who you'd call them. Maybe, I don't even know. I don't know, they change things. Maybe they're Tzeentch. I haven't decided yet. And then Eshin. They're not quite paralleled, but they're close. And the Master Clan, which is the Grey Seers, who are again manipulating everybody. And then Thankful and Bone Ripper get their own little like their own entry, because everyone's just terrified of them and they seem to never die. And all he does is cause chaos. He's not even like on the council. He's just a complete like wild element that shows up and occasionally like causes trouble, but is just an endless force basically inside the Skaven. All the Verminlords, and of course their different aspects. The Warlocks, and this is all going through like the technology they use and how it works. And they do talk about some of the weirder technology pieces, like far squeakers exist. Like they have radios and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. The fact that they can project their voices and like telecommunicate across like great distances is just a part of their lives. Like they have a higher technology level than basically everybody else in the mortal realms. How well that stuff works. Mountain the Monsters, Agents of Eshin. There is a model they've reused too from the old rule or the old world, which is Deathmaster Snitch is actually just a Deathmaster now, which I think is pretty slick. There's another great color section of them fighting Dwarden. I don't know what is the beef, but I mean, they do take over a lot of Dwarden cities, so I understand why there's some beef. But the Karadan Overlords, maybe they're getting Crowded players, look in the background. There's got to be something here. They're too much in this book to not be getting something soon. Some of the great plastic models, Plastic Warlord, Grey Seer. These are all probably getting repacked, I'd imagine, to have the round bases. Warlock Bombardier, Tank One Bone Ripper, which obviously they kept. It's a great kit. It actually gives you some options because you can take them with the 4 Warp Fire Throwers, but you can also take them with 2. Half and half can be different. So you can take them with 4 Warp Fire Throwers, or 2 and 2, or 4 and 4 of the fists as well. You can make them fighty or shooty, which is kind of cool. You have some options actually to customize your own Bone Ripper there. All the classics, Plague Monks. Oh my god, I can't believe Lord Skrolk is still a miniature being used. That model is from the 90s, but it's a Jess Goodwin Skaven model, and therefore it will always be fit for sale because Jess Goodwin sculpted it, and therefore it's immaculate. That's like a 7th or 8th edition Plague Sensor though, because that's not a Jess Goodwin one, that's one of the resculpts. And the plastics still around, didn't get redone yet. Catapults. The 7th edition Furnace, which is also of course the Screaming Bell. More color sections. I think that might be a Jess Goodwin Poison Wind Globadier too. I can't remember if they redid them or not. Yeah, and then Ikit Claw, the resculpt of Ikit Claw. I like that some of these are just straight up Warhammer characters, but it makes sense because it's Skaven. Just make them generic versions of whatever they were. The nice plastic clan rats and plastic storm vermin, which turned out great. And of course, the description of what everything is. Paint your stuff. Again, I talked about this in the review for the Flesh Eater Courts, but this is the first time I've noticed in a book the Shout Out to Warhammer TV, and that's super clever. This is the people that didn't know about you now, or even like parents that like if you got like a younger kid playing the games, reading this when you're trying to figure out how to paint your kids' stuff or help them paint. That's great advertising for Warhammer TV. They've been growing fast for the last 5 years. This is the kind of thing. Just having a show up in every publication like this, that's going to keep them growing super fast for total global domination. And we're on to the actual rules. There you go, what you tuned in for. I'm done through the color section and talking about the background. And we'll get to some actual rules. So, allegiance abilities. The keyword that everyone's going to have is Scaventide. So, Scaventide army, everything that has the Scaventide keyword comes together in a Scaventide army, and they all get these allegiance abilities. So, I love all of these, especially the Teachings of the Horned Rat. These are my favorite. The first one is lead from the back. The lookout rule applies to attacks made with melee weapons as well as attacks made with missile weapons if the target of the attack is a Scaventide hero that's not a monster. So you can hide in your own units and throw people in front of you if you're a Skaven hero. I think that's amazing. And scurry away in the combat phase, when you pick a friendly Scaventide hero to fight, you can say he's going to scurry away instead of making a pile and moon fighting. And then he gets to make a normal move but must be a treat. He can just run away. Oh man, it's going to be so hard to catch unless you're going like, unless it's your battle round. Catching a Skaven hero is going to be super hard because they can just run away when they go to fight. That's such a clutch maneuver for keeping like those support pieces alive. It's going to be obnoxious. And then overwhelming mass, add 1. So it's interesting because instead of putting this into every unit as like their own rule, they made this an army rule. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by Scaventide units with 20 or more models. In addition, add 1 to wound rolls for all attacks melee weapons if they have 30 or more models. And there's a few, like, it's only going to apply to certain units that can go to that big. But your Plague Sensor Bearers can do it, Plague Monks can do it, Squire Acolytes can do it, Storm Vermin can do it because they can go to 40, and Giant Rats and Gutter Runners. And Clown Rats, obviously, they go to 20 to 40. So those units in particular, I'll just call them out now because I'll forget otherwise, get the overwhelming mass. And then strength in numbers, when a Scaventide unit takes a Battle Shock test, add 2 to its bravery characteristic instead of 1 for every 10 models in the unit. So they get +2 bravery for every 10 models in a unit. So a 40-man unit gets +8 bravery. Bananas. And the ways of the Great Clan. So you get to pick a Great Clan for your actually you don't have to pick even. Anyone from these Great Clans in your army, because they're all Scaventide, get these following rules. So Master Clan, Skilled Manipulators, this is all your Grey Skier guys. Each time a friendly Master Clan model uses a command point, roll a die. On a 5+, you get an extra command point. So you get a refunded command point for your Grey Seers. And then Molder Prized Creations. This one's really cool, actually, for your big monsters. At the start of the first battle round, before determining which player has the first turn, you can pick a friendly Clan Molder Fighting Beast model for each Master Molder in your army. So for each Master Molder, basically hero, that keyword, You get to pick one of your fighting beasts. The famed fighting beast cannot be picked more than once, but add D3 to their wound characteristic, and you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for their melee weapons for the whole game. So you just pair off your monsters each with a Master Molder hero, and they get D3 extra wounds and reroll once to hit with their melee weapons. That's pretty boss. Now, I don't think Thankful and Bone Ripper count, because I don't think they count as being fighting beasts, but let's check. Let's just see. Let's just see if the jank already exists. I don't think they do. Thankful, he is not a fighting beast. So yeah, he's Master Clan though, so he gets the refund. Ashen, Masters of Murder. If your army includes any Clan Ashen heroes at the start of the first battle round, before determining which player has the first turn, you can pick an enemy hero for each Clan Ashen hero in your army. You can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Clan Ashen units that target those heroes in the battle. And then Verminous, Mighty Warlords. This one is kind of crazy actually, because they didn't have a lot of character. This gives them a lot of character. When you pick command traits, you can pick 1 command trait for up to 6 friendly Claw Lords, in addition to 1 command trait for your general. So you could potentially have every command trait in your army. You must pick a different command trait for each Claw Lord that's a command trait, and no models can have more than 1. You use the command traits for that Claw Lord, even though they're not the general. So Claw Lords are not that expensive. A single Claw Lord is 100 points. So if you want to just go heavy into Claw Lords or guys with the Claw Lord keyword, you're going to get every single command trait, which is kind of crazy. Then you've got your Squire Weapon Sparks. Now this is a bit nuts. This is basically the same as old Warpstone tokens, where you could like eat a piece of Warpstone to cast a spell, and you still get that in certain units. You get D3 plus 3. If your army includes any Clan Squire heroes, at the start of the battle, before either army setup, you roll D3 and add 3 to the roll. The result's the number of Warpstone Sparks you can use during the battle. You can't use more than 1 in the same phase. So each one can be used once per battle to carry one of the following actions. In your hero phase, you can pick a friendly Clan Squire wizard. You can reroll casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for that wizard until the end of the phase. At the end of that phase, roll a die on a 1 that takes D3 mortal wounds. So you can eat them just like the old Warpstone tokens. Then in your shooting phase, pick 1 friendly Claw Squire hero, Clan Squire hero. Then pick up to 3 different friendly Clan Squire units that are wholly within 13 inches of the hero. You can add 1 of the damage characteristic of missile weapons used by those units until the end of the phase. At the end of that phase, roll a die on a 1, the hero takes D3 mortal wounds. So your Storm Fiends, if you have multiple units of Storm Fiends, they can all damage 2 crazy murder rattling guns. It's horrifying. For free! Just take a Squire hero. It's like take a Warlock Engineer. In the combat phase, pick 1 friendly Clan Squire hero. You can reroll hit rolls for that hero until the end of the phase. At the end of that phase, roll a die on a 1, they take you through mortal wounds. So you can make a hero fightier. This one though, in the middle, holy moly, that's the winner. That's just bonkers. +1 damage to 3 units for 1 of these each turn. So for the whole game, basically, as long as that hero doesn't die, they can all be +1 save or +1 damage. All their guns. Command traits, Cunning Machinations. This is Master Clan. This is going to be for your Grey Seers. So again, the Claw Lords can't get these. This is Squire and Master Clan. So Malevolent, you can reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by the weapons of this general. Verminous Valor. Oh, and sorry, I should say that these are shared actually. The Savage Overlord, Verminous Valor, and Malevolent are all shared across all of these. So I'm going to go through them once, and the other ones are all different. Verminous Valor, before you allocate a wound or a mortal wound to your general, roll a die, subtract 1 if the general is a monster or war machine on a 4+. Instead of allocating the wound or mortal wound, you can allocate it to a friendly Skaven type unit within 3 inches. So you just pile off wounds on the guys nearby. Savage Overlord, add 1 of the bravery characteristic of friendly Skaven type units if they're wholly within 18 of the general. So you get to make them braver too. And everybody gets these. Then you get Supreme Manipulator for your Master Clan heroes. This is your Grey Seers. You can reroll the dice to determine if you receive an extra command point when you use Skill Manipulator traits and use a command ability. So your 5+ refund is rerollable. That's pretty great. And then Masters of Magic, once per hero phase, you can add 1 of the casting or dispelling and unbinding rolls for this general. And Cunning, after the battle has started, roll a die for each time your opponent receives a command point. On a 6, you get it instead of them. So when your opponent replenishes command points in their hero phase, on a 6, you just take it. Why not? I think Supreme Manipulator wins out here, just the rerolling if you get your command points back. For Squire, you also get Masterful Scavenger, add 2 to the number of Warpstone Sparks this army's general can generate. So you're getting D3 +5 now. Deranged Inventor, at the start of your shooting phase, you can pick a friendly clan Squire unit that's wholly within 13 in the general. All the aura effects, by the way, in this army are 13, which, of course, they are. You can reroll hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons by that unit until the end of the phase. Yeah, that one right there, that's pretty great. So just stand in next to your storm feeds, make them all damage too, and then you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons until the end of the phase, and it doesn't cost you a CP. You just do it. Ridiculous. Big storm feed unit, damage 2 guns, reroll your misses. Overseer of Destruction, at the start of your shooting phase, you can pick 3 friendly weapon team units that are wholly within 13. You can reroll hit rolls for attacks made by this unit until the end of the phase. Now, you're only getting one of these, but Deranged Inventor seems like the best one. Creed of Corruption. So these are your Pestilence ones. Again, these 3 are all the same across the Verminous and Pestilence. So you've got Malevolent, Verminous Valor, and Savage Overlord. Then you've got Master of Rotten Ruin. You roll the dice to determine if a prayer chanted by the general is answered. And I'm sorry, I think I didn't notice the Pestilence Plagues, they're all the same as the ones in the General's Compendium, or General's Handbook rather. Architect of Death, you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by missile weapons of friendly clan Pestilence units that are wholly within the 18 of the general. And Diseased, at the start of your hero phase, roll a dice if this general is within 3 inches of the enemy units. On a 4+, inflict D3 mortal wounds on 1 enemy unit within 3 inches of the general. That was pretty cool. Treacherous Tactics, you get Brutal Fury, and remember, you can have all 3 of these for anybody, but if you're just taking a couple Claw Lords, these 3 are the ones that are unique to Clan Verminous. Once you're battled at the start of the combat phase, add 3 to the attack characteristic of a general's melee weapons until the end of the phase. Powerful, add 1 to their wounds, and then Devious Adversary, if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by a melee weapon that targets the general is 1, add 1 to the attack characteristic of the general's melee weapons until the end of the phase. So for every 1 your opponent rolls, you get +1 attack. And then you've got your Clan Molder heroes. Again, these 3 are all the same. Molder Supreme, sounds like a thing from Taco Bell. When you use the Prize Creations battle trait and pick 1 friendly Clan Molder Fighting Beast model for this general, you can either add 3 to that model's wounds instead of D3, or add D6 to that model's wounds characteristic instead of D3. So you can make it random, or you can make it 3 if he does the Prize Fighting Beast. And then Horde Master, when this general uses the Unleash More Beasts command, you receive a new unit on a roll of 4+ instead of a 5, because you can make more guys. And then Burly +1 wounds. Shadowy Masters of Clan Eshin. You get Unrivaled Killer. Reroll hit rolls for attacks made by this general that target enemy heroes chosen for the Master of Murder battle traits. Shadow Master. While the general is within 1 inch of a terrain feature, the general is not visible to the enemy. While they're more than 6 inches. While 2 enemy models while they're more than 6 inches away. So you can hide next to terrain and just not be visible. That's a really good trait. And then you can make him fly. Incredible agility. He flies, which is like wall running and stuff. He shoots parkour, and runs around. Artifacts of Power. So again, you get these all for the different clans. So starting with Master, this is why this is taking so long, because there's like, this is gonna be a long one, because there's something for every clan, and there's 5 clans. So Master Clan Heroes, Warpstone Storm Scroll. Once for battle in your hero phase, the bearer can use this scroll. If they do so, roll 1 die for each enemy unit within 13 inches of the bearer. On a 4+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So just explode. That's an old fantasy battle magic item. Suspicious Stone. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to the bearer. On a 5+, it's negated. The Gnaw Shard. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. If any wounds inflicted by that weapon are allocated to an enemy model and not negated, that enemy model suffers a mortal wound at the end of each battle round, even if their other wounds are subsequently healed. Yeah, forever. That one doesn't go away. Skaven Brew. Once per battle in your hero phase, you can pick a friendly Skaven type unit within 3 inches of the bearer. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, but you can add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by that unit until your next hero phase. Snow to Grovel Robes. So they're soaked in sorcerer's treatment, refined from the musk of fear. Do not take battle shock tests for friendly Skaven type units if they're wholly within 13 of the bearer, so you can make them immune to battle shock. And then Staff of Rightful Supremacy. Subtract 1 from the casting rolls of enemy wizards while they're within 13 inches of the bearer. In addition, once per battle, you can dispel 1 endless spell within 13 without having to roll. It's automatically successful. That's pretty cool. Good way to get rid of those cogs. The Brass Orb for Clan Squire. That's the old Brass Orb. Once per battle, at the start of your hero phase, roll a die. On a 6, the closest enemy model within 6 inches is slain. Oh my god. You just kill someone on a 6. See a Lariel. See a big Papa Celestin. That's ridiculous. If several enemy models are equally close, you can pick which one's slain. Yeah, just roll a die. On the 6th, they're dead. And see you later, Nagash. Warpstone Amulets. Roll a dice each time a wound inflicted by the melee weapon is allocated to the bearer, not negated, and a 5+ to take a mortal wound. So you get a bounce back, basically, instead of a shrug. Esoteric Warp Resonator. At the start of each battle round, you receive 1 extra Warpstone Spark if the bearer's on the battlefield. That one's pretty cool if you like using the sparks for shooting, although I don't think you need to, really. If you have a Squire General, and you have the reroll hits trait, you just blow through them. That Warpstone Spark can only be used to perform Warpstone perk ability with that bear in the battle round. If it's not used before the end of the battle round, it's lost. So he gets a free one that only he can use. Squire's Breath Bellows. At the start of your hero phase, the bearer can pump the bellows. If they do so, roll a die for each unit other than the bearer within 3 inches of the bearer. On a 4+ to take D3 mortal wounds. He just pumps out the exhaust, basically. The Vial of the Fulminator. At the start of your movement phase, you can pick a friendly clan Squire War Machine unit within 3 inches. Double that unit's move characteristic until the end of the phase. At the end of the phase, roll a dice on a 4+. That unit takes D3 mortal wounds. And then Vigor Dust Injectors. If you're in your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly Skaven type unit wholly within 12 inches of the bearer. Add 1 to charge rolls and hit rolls for the unit until your next hero phase. However, at the start of your next hero phase, that unit takes D3 mortal wounds. The Befouled Boons of Clan Pestilence. Blade of Corruption. Pick an enemy, pick a bearer's melee weapon. You can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by that weapon. The Foul Pendant. The bearer can attempt to unbind a spell in the enemy hero phase as if they were a wizard. The Brooding Blade. Pick the bearer's melee weapons. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. At the end of the combat phase, roll a die for each model wounded but not slain on a 2+ to take D3 mortal wounds. That one's pretty great, actually. The Fumigatus. The names are ridiculous. At the start of each combat phase, you can pick 1 enemy unit within 6 inches of the bearer and roll a die. On a 2+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 5+, that unit suffers D3 instead of 1. That's pretty good too. Blistrevious, the Living Cyst, Sentient Pustule. Add 2 inches to the bearer's move characteristic. In addition, you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made by the bearer. Starting in the second battle round at the start of your hero phase, if there's any other friendly Clan Pestilence heroes within 13 of the bearer, you must transfer this artifact to them, even if they already carry an artifact of power, because it walks around. Liber Bubonicus, the bearer can use the Plague Prayers ability from the Plague Priest War Scroll. If the bearer is a Plague Priest, then you can use the Plague Prayers ability twice in your hero phase, so you can do 2 prayers instead of 1. And then Warp Touched War Gear for Clan of Verminous. Thingsbane. Pick 1 of your weapons. Add 1 to its damage characteristic. Shield of Distraction. Reroll save rolls of 1 for attacks that target the bearer. In addition, at the start of the combat phase, pick 1 enemy model within 3 inches of the bearer. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by that model in that combat phase. You blind him with your shield. The Screech Skull Trophy. Subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units while they're within 13 of the bearer. The Flay Pelt Cloak. You can reroll hit and wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by melee weapons by the bearer. That's pretty great. Just reroll all hits and wounds of 1. The Rust Cursed Armor. I mean, there is no big version of these guys, so it's not that big a deal. The Rust Cursed Armor. Reroll save rolls of 1 for attacks that target the bearer. In addition, at the start of the combat phase, you can pick 1 enemy hero with an artifact of power that's within 3 inches of the bearer and roll 3d6. If the roll is exactly 13, that artifact of power can no longer be used. Take it away. It's gone. It reverts to normal. Warpstone Charm. At the start of your hero phase, pick 1 unit within 3 inches of the bearer and roll a die. On a 2 to 5 to take a mortal wound. On a 6 to take D3 mortal wounds. And if there's no enemy units within 3 inches, you must pick either a friendly unit or the bearer to be the target. Oh no! So he has to be stuck in. Otherwise he'll take damage. That one's terrible. It either kills your friends or kills you. That's terrible. Monstrous Arcana. The Clan Molder's hero. Lash of Fangs. Pick 1 of the bearer's melee weapons. An unmodified hit roll for attack is a 6. That attack inflicts a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. The Foul Hide. In your hero phase, you can heal D3 wounds allocated to the bearer. Snap, Snap, Snare Pull. These names are so dumb. At the start, someone's going to have to say that in a battle report at some point. I'm using a Snap, Snap, Snare Pull. At the start of the combat phase, pick 1 enemy model within 3 inches of the bearer. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that model in that combat phase. The Rat Tail Snake. If the unmodified save roll for the attack that targets the bearer is a 6, the attacking unit suffers a mortal wound after all the attacks have been resolved. The Rabid Crown. Reroll rolls for attacks made by reroll wound rolls for attacks made by friendly clans molder. Clan Molder? Packs, Clan Molder Pack? Clan's Molder Pack? Units? While they're wholly within 13 inches of the bear. I guess just Molders. Flesh Gift Vial. Once per battle in your shooting phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 6 inches of the bear and roll a die. And on a 1, the bear suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 2 to 5, that enemy suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, they take D6 mortal wounds. And then finally, the Tools of Murder. Shadow Magnet Trinket. Once per battle, the bear can fight at the start of the combat phase before the players pick the other units to fight. The bear cannot fight again in that combat phase unless an ability or spell lets them. The Far Skitter Cloak. Once per battle, at the end of your movement phase, you can remove the bear from the battlefield and set them up anywhere in the battlefield more than 9, so you can bamf out of there. Just pocket sand. The 3 Fangs. Once per battle, at the start of your shooting phase, you can pick an enemy here within 6 inches of the bear and roll 3 dice. If all 3 rolls are 3+, and the combination of the 3 dice is greater than the enemy's wound characteristic, they're just dead. Oh my god. So the average roll is 11, and you're just looking for them all to be 3+. That's a horrifying ability. That's a horrifying ability. Oh my gosh. And the guy can be invisible too from his traits. Yeah. Yeah, that 3 Fangs thing is gross. I mean, you have to, the hard part is landing all 3 dice on a 3+, but your average roll there's going to be 11, which means you can snipe out almost any big hero with no defenses, as long as you can just roll 3 dice on 3+. That's bonkers. The Warp Reaper Stars. Pick one of the bear's missile weapons. If the unmodified wound roll for the attack made by that weapon is a 6, the attack inflicts D3 mortal wounds in addition to any normal damage. So those are your Warpstone Stars. The Cube of Mists. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 6 inches of the bear. That unit cannot make a pile-on move in the combat phase. In addition, subtract -1 to hit rolls for attacks made by the unit in the combat phase. That's really good, actually. And the Gnaw Bomb. Once per battle in your hero phase, you can pick one terrain feature within 6 inches of the bear. Until your next hero phase, the terrain feature has the scenery rules from the Gnawhole War Scroll. You can create a little temporary portal in addition to the scenery rules that it already has. So you can basically deploy a portal and then teleport guys through it. That one's going to be... So the 3 Fangs looks good on paper. That one's going to be super popular because you can just dump a unit through it and have it almost wherever you want it to be. Because the whatchamacallits are so fast. Yeah, that's gross, actually. And then we're on to spells. So the Lord of Ruin for Greyseers. You have Scorch, 5+. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within 13 of the caster invisible, and roll a number of dice equal to the casting roll. For every 6, take a mortal wound. Splinter on a 6+. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within 6 inches and roll a die. If it's greater than their wound characteristic, they're slain. Oh my god. Skitterleap. Casting value 6, pick a Skaven hero with a wounds characteristic of 12 or less, so no thankful, that's within 13 of the caster invisible. Remove that hero from the battlefield and set it up anywhere in the table more than 9 from the enemy units. That hero may not move again in the movement phase. Plague, casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within 13 and roll a die for each mortal unit. On a 5+, take a mortal wound. That's a terrifying one for goblins. Death Frenzy, a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick a Skaven unit that is not a hero and wholly within 13 of the caster invisible. Until your next hero phase, when a model from that unit is slain, but before it's removed from play, they can pile in and fight. Warp Gale. Warp Gale is a casting value of 8. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 26 of the caster, invisible to them. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, and any run or charge rolls are halved until your next hero phase. If that unit can fly, it cannot fly until your next hero phase, in addition to having its run and charge rolls being halved. The Lore of Warp Volt Galvanism. Clan Squire Wizards only. They only get 3 spells though. More Warp Power has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick one friendly Squire unit wholly within 12 of the caster invisible. You can reroll hit and wound rolls for that unit until your next hero phase. However, at the end of your next hero phase, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Chain Warp Lightning. Chain Warp Lightning has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick D6 different units within 18 inches of the caster. Each of them suffers a mortal wound. And Warp Lightning Shield has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast until your next hero phase, the first 3 wounds allocated to the caster in each phase are negated. If the 4th wound is allocated, then the caster suffers D6 mortal wounds and the spell is unbound. So basically, the shield implodes and it crackles and burns you while it explodes. So that's all of our spells and artifacts and traits and what's not. So let's go to the Gnawholes. So a Skaven-Tide army can include up to 3 Gnawhole terrain features. After territories have been set up, you can set up the Gnawholes in your army. Each Gnawhole must be set up wholly within 8 inches of the edge of the battlefield, more than 3 from any enemy units or objectives, and more than 1 from any other terrain features. Roll off, both players can set up terrain like this. So scenery rules. Tunnel through reality. At the start of your movement phase, you can pick one claw hole to transport 1 friendly Skaven-Tide unit. In order to do so, the unit must be wholly within 6 of the Gnawhole, and a friendly Skaven-Tide hero must be within 6 of the Gnawhole too. He has to direct them in. If this is the case, remove the Skaven-Tide unit from the battlefield and set it up wholly within 6 of another Gnawhole and more than 9 from the enemy, and it counts as their movement phase for the turn. So you can camp on these basically and keep them from having people come through. But it has the Aura of the Horn Rat. Skaven-Tide units treat this unit as having the Arcane Scenery feature. Other units treat it as having the Deadly feature. In addition, you can add 1 of the dice to determine if a prayer is answered for a friendly Skaven-Tide priest within 1 inch of a Gnawhole. And then it's Arcane, so +1 to cast, and Deadly if you move over it, or sorry, if you end a charge, roll a die for each unit that finishes a normal move or charge within 1 inch of a Deadly terrain feature. On a 1, they take D3 mortal wounds. That's interesting. It's not run or charge, just normal move or charge now. So any move through it will give you mortal wound. But it doesn't just kill you. D3 mortal wounds instead of just killing you. You get a battle plan, so unique battle plan. The Skaven-Tide Assault, it uses the Gnawholes, so it's like a battle plan to feature that new terrain kit. Another one, Through the Gnawhole, again featuring Gnawholes. Your Path to Glory rules, with like a pretty huge Path to Glory list. Rewards for your champions, and we're on to War Scrolls! Alright, again, there is an absolute pile of these. I am not gonna know if there are small specifics that have changed. I'm pretty sure all this is going to go up in the AOS app today. So if you're really curious as to the stats and if any of them change, check to see if your AOS app has an update. They typically put the War Scrolls up the same day that these previews go up. So you can go and look yourself. I'm just going to talk about the stuff that looks new and interesting. And of course, all the battalions and the point values and stuff. Because there's way too much here to go through in absolute detail. So your big War Scroll battalion, that's the amalgamation of other little ones, is the Virulent Procession. It's 1 Verminlord Corruptor, 2+ Congregations of Filth, a Foul Rain Congregation, and a Plague Smog Congregation. And the abilities it gives you at the start of your hero phase, pick a terrain feature within 13 inches of the Verminlord Corruptor. Roll a die for each enemy within 3 inches. On a 4+, take D3 mortal wounds. You basically explode a terrain feature nearby. Your Congregation of Filth. Now again, a lot like the ones in the Flesh Eater Courts book, these are actually pretty easy to make. They're all, if you're gonna make like a specific clan's army, these War Scroll battalions tend to be stuff you're probably gonna take anyway. So like, they're not hard to unlock and you don't have to really build a very tailored army to use them. I actually like this design direction. I hope more books in the future as they get updated to the new edition. So, Deepkin, get these sort of like easier to unlock battalions, because it means battalions will become more prevalent. You get access to more relics. It makes these more relevant to the game, basically. So the Congregation of Filth is a Plague Priest or Plague Furnace and 2+ units of Plague Monks. Again, if you're playing that army, you're going to have that. And you get Plague Altar. Roll a die each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a Plague Monk unit that's wholly within 18 inches of the Plague Priest or the Furnace. On a 6, that wound or mortal wound is negated. So it gives you a 6-up shrug basically for all of your Plague Monks, which is handy. So you're going to want the Congregation of Filth. The Foul Rain Congregation, so it's a Plague Priest and 3 Plague Club Catapults. Fetid Blessings, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with missile weapons by this unit's battalion while they're within 13 inches of the same Plague Priest. So if he just camps near them, they get +1 to wound. I think that makes them wound on 2s. Plague Smog Congregation, so Plague Priest or Plague Furnace and 2+ units of bears, like Sensor Bears. You get Poisonous Miasma. You can reroll the dice to determine if an enemy unit suffers any mortal wounds when you use the Poisonous Fumes ability, and if that enemy is within 3 inches of a unit from this battalion. So rerolling to see if you give mortal wounds out is pretty crazy. Then you've got your Squire one, which is the Warp Cog Convocation. It's all kinds of things. Requires an Arch Warlock, 2 to 5 Engine Covens, chosen in any combination from the following things. It actually tells you what you have to take. So like an Warp Block Engineer, and 1 to 3 Warp Lightning Cannons, Warp Block Engineer or Bombardier, 1 to 4 units of Storm Fiends, 1 to 5 Warpfire Throwers, 1 to 5 Warp Grinders. One that's all Warlock Engineers, Storm Fiends, and Acolytes. One that's, so you have to take 2 to 3 of these. One that's 1 to 3 units of Storm Fiends, 1 to 3 units of Warblock Jezzails, or 1 to 5 Rattling Guns. Or the Brooding Blade Threshkin, which is 1 to 3 units of Storm Fiends, and 1 to 3 Doom Wheels, and 1 to 5 Doom Flayers. And then they all get different stuff. I'm not going to go into it all, but basically it upgrades the other battalions based upon which ones you take. And then those battalions don't get any actual benefits in and of themselves. So it's interesting because Squire doesn't get baby battalions. They only get to take this big battalion that's at least 1 Arch Warlock and then at least 2 of these other ones. But I feel like when you're playing Squire, you're going to get to unlock this anyway. So for instance, the one that's Warp Lightning Cannons is a Warblock Engineer and 1 to 3 Warp Lightning Cannons. That's just 2 models at minimum, right? So that means in your shooting phase, you can pick a Warp Lightning Cannon from this engine coven within 13 of the Warplock Engineer from the same engine coven, or the Arch Engineer. If you do so, subtract 1 from the power of the Warp Lightning Cannon's Warp Lightning Blast in the shooting phase to a minimum of 1. So it makes it easier to get off, basically. The Gas Cloud one, reroll hit rolls of 1 for missile weapons. For the Squire Acolytes and Storm Fiends. Armed with wind launchers if they're within 13 of the Arch Engineer. It's just giving you basically like the buffs for those units, but you can't take them by themselves, which I think is, that seems like a design intention. There's kind of a tax built into making them better, as opposed to with the Pestilence clan, you can kind of cherry pick the formations you want. In this one, it's all or nothing. And then for your Verminous stuff, you get the Claw Horde. It's a Claw Lord, 1 to 3 units of Storm Vermin and 2 to 9 units of Clan Rats. You get Claw Picked, and the Claw Lord from this battalion uses the Gnash and Gnaw Their Bones command ability. Instead of picking 1 unit wholly within 13, you can pick all the units wholly within 13 that are from the same battalion. The Molder one is a Flesh Meld Menagerie. Again, these guys kind of get the short stick. They don't get that much stuff. This one's a Master Molder, 0 to 3 Hell Pit Abominations, 1 to 3 units of Pack Masters, 1 to 4 units of Rat Swarms or Giant Rats, and 1 to 4 units of Rat Ogres. More beasts! And the Master Molder from this battalion uses the Unleash More Beasts command ability. For a unit in the same battalion that's been destroyed, a new unit is, I don't know, a 4+ instead of a 5+. So you can recycle your units on a 4 instead of a 5. And the Slink Talon, which is for Eshin, you get a Deathmaster, 1 to 4 units of Gutter Runners, 2 to 8 units of Night Runners, and it's Murder Slay now. If the Deathmaster from this battalion is set up in hiding as a reserve unit in the combat phase in which it's set up the battlefield, you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made by units from the same battalion. So he has a deep strike. He just appears within an inch of another unit in your army and then can charge and go fight. So there's Thanquol Bone Ripper. The big thing with them is you choose his arms. So it has a total of 4 Warpfire Throwers, which can be Warpfire Weapons, which can be any combination of Warpfire Braziers and Warpfire Projectors. Having double projectors is pretty tempting, and it means that you would have, I think it's 4 attacks. Yeah, the attack characteristic of this model is Warpfire Braziers equal to double the number of Warpfire Braziers the Bone Ripper's armed with. So you have 2, you get 4 attacks with the Braziers. I mean, the 3s and 3s -2, 3 damage. He's still pretty dangerous if he's got the projectors and the other stuff too. And the projectors are terrifying. No attack sequence. Just roll X dice for every model in the target units with an 8. And on 4+ take a mortal wound. So if you have 2 projectors and there's 60 goblins in front of you, you roll 120 dice. Actually, what you do technically is you roll 2d6 60 times. And if it's a 4+, they take a mortal wound. So, because that's the weird thing, you roll X dice for each model in the unit. I don't think you actually roll, maybe you do roll them all at once. It's the sequencing there's interesting. I'm not really sure, because what it says specifically is roll X dice for each model in the target unit. That's within an inch of the model, where X equals the number of Warpfire projectors this model's armed with. I guess you just roll 120 dice, and every 4+ is a mortal wound. You could just nuke 60 goblins in one round with that thing, which is horrifying. You get Screech Vermin King, so the special character, which is the big bad Vermin Lord, who's the one that's kind of in charge of the Shadow Cancel. And he's neat. Again, go look him up. He's the Rat King, his command ability. Use it at the start of the combat phase. You can do so in that phase. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Skaven units that are wholly within 13 of him. Yay! And he knows the dreaded 13th spell. It has a casting value of 8. If successful, pick 1 enemy unit within 13 of the caster, invisible to them, and roll 13 dice. For every 4+, the unit suffers a mortal wound. You can then summon 1 unit of clan rats to the battlefield and add it to your army. The summon unit can have up to 1 model for each mortal wound that is inflicted by the spell. The summon unit must be set up within 13 of the caster and more than 9 from the enemy units. The summon unit cannot move in the following movement phase. You can make a unit of clan rats by killing the enemy. So have extra clan rats if you're going to bring Screech, because he's pretty good. Got his Doomglaive. 6 stacks, 3s and 3s, -1 D3 damage, Plague Reaper. He's the do-everything Verminlord. Then you get your Deceiver, Corruptor, Warbringer. I'm sure there's some changes to these, but like there's way too much here to go through everything because we listen to me talk forever. Gracier on Bell. I do love that he has 13 wounds. I'm surprised these guys didn't get 13 wounds. They really should have. Like that's a cool nod to the background. The fact that these guys don't have 13 wounds, that actually kind of bothers me now. And that they don't move 13 inches. Like, everything should be 13s. It's such a minimal difference that I think that should just be the way it is, because it's a cool nod to the background. Gracier on Foot, Arch Warlock, Warlock Engineer, Bombardier, Storm Fiends. So I did notice something weird about Storm Things. You can't build them all with 1 weapon loadout now. And I seem to recall when I've played against them, people just take nothing but the Rattling Cannons. So the description, I think, is, I don't know if this is going to make people mad or not. I could just be totally wrong, so just completely ignore me if I'm wrong. But a unit of Storm, actually, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to look on the AOS app to see if I am wrong. Because that's a thing that I can do. We have the technology. Let's just look up Storm Fiends and see if it's different right now. Because the unit of Storm Fiends has any number of models. Up to 1/3 of the models, rounding up, can be armed with one of the following weapons. Warp Fire Projectors and Clubbing Blows, or Wind Launchers and Clubbing Blows. Up to 1/3 of the models unit, rounding up, can be armed with the following. Grinder Fists, or Rattling Cannons and Clubbing Blows. Up to 1/3 of the models. Basically, it looks like they all have to be different. Can be armed with one of the following: Doomflare Gauntlets and Warpstone Laced Armor, or Shock Gauntlets and Warpstone Laced Armor. It looks like you kind of have to have one of each. Let me see what the Azure app says about this. Show profiles. So looking up Chaos. They are Storm Fiends. Each model has 3 or more models. Each Storm Fiend is armed with a set of dangerous Clan Scar weapons. Some enter battle with blah blah blah, some enter battle with blah blah blah, and blah blah. Many Storm Fiends are instead equipped with ranged weapons. Yep. Yeah, okay, so this is a change. There's no requirements in the previous War Scroll as to what they have to be armed with, but it looks like now you can only have 1 in 3 armed each way. So I hope there aren't a lot of people out there with mono-armed Storm Fiend units, because you're basically going to have to take that number of Storm Fiends and buy that equal number of boxes to make your units legal. So for every unit that you have equipped with the same thing 3 times, you'll have to get another box, basically, or just count them as being, I don't know, convert them, pull their arms off, find your bits. Yeah, that's a change. That's a change. I'm not sure how people are going to feel about that, but that seems to be a thing. Basically, 1 in 3 can have one of the different loadouts, and the loadouts are all set. So it's Projectors and Clubbing Blows, or Wind Launchers and Clubbing Blows, and then the next one has to be either Grinder Fists and Rattling Cannons or Clubbing Blows. Sorry, Grinder Fists or Rattling Cannons and Clubbing Blows. And then 1/3 of the models in the unit can be Doomflare Gauntlets and Warplaced Armor, or Shock Gauntlets and Warplaced Armor. So you're not getting, you can't just take nothing but Rattling Cannons and Clubbing Blows, which is, I'm pretty sure, what I played against the last time I played them. It was just, and that might be because of the new command abilities. You can't just spam Rattling Cannons, but you could do a Rattling Cannon, a Wind Launcher or Warfire Projector, and a Doomfire Gauntlet. But that makes the whole damage to Rattling Guns, because like it used to be 9d6 4s and 3s -1 damage. Imagine 9d6 rerolling to hits, wounding on 3+ -1 2 damage. It would just pulverize anything I looked at. So that might be why that is. But again, I don't know how people are going to feel mixed ways about that. I can understand from a balance point of view why they did it, but there's people's collections are going to be maybe a little bit skewed. Then Warp Lightning Cannons, Sky Acolytes, which are your old Poison Ring Globadiers, the Doom Wheel, the Jezzails, Rattling guns. It does look like the old weapon teams are being turned into units, and Jezzails are still amazing. Warp some snipers, where if they roll a 6, they just do 2 mortal wounds. And they're still 2 damage, 30-inch range. They reroll the hits if they don't move, and they get +2 save against shooting if they don't move from the PVs. Jezzails are still so good. Jezzails have literally been good in every edition of Warhammer ever made. Warp Fire Throwers, Doom Flares, Warp Grinders, the cool little like thingy things, Plague Claws. Is that the Catapult? Yeah, Plague Claw Catapult. 6 to 31. I could have his minimum range still. Can't shoot within 6. Plague Priest, Plague Priest. It's weird it only has 6 wounds. You'd think something that big would have more wounds, but it only has 6 wounds. It's actually like pretty easy to break, which I think is interesting. Plague Priest, and yeah, it is 3s and 3s, -2 d6 damage. So you get +1 wounds, 3s and 2s, -2 d6 damage. Horrifying. Your monks, anything that had like the giant size. Oh my god, the Plague Monks are still so good. They get the +1 to wound if they have the 30 or more models. So they still 2 attacks, 3 attacks from Frenzied Assault. Real hits, and then hit on 3s, wound on 3s if they have big units. Oh, your unit's still amazing. Sensor Bears, Claw Lords, again, just baby heroes if you're doing the Verminous clan. They're not super fighty. You get Scritch and Spike Claw Swarm, which is pretty cool. The stuff from Shadespire, Storm Vermin, Clan Rats. Storm Vermin is still pretty great. 2 attacks, 4s and 3s, 2-inch reach, -1 damage. And their shields give them +1 to save rolls, the target unit with 10 or more models. So 4+ saves. Pack Masters and Master Molders. The Hell Pit Abomination. Still great. Still terrifying. Might just come back to life when you kill it. Rat Ogres, Rat Swarms, Giant Rats. The Death Master, which is Snitch's old model. Gutter Runners, Night Runners. Oh my god, they're still using the old Night Runner model for more time. Amazing. Because they didn't resculpt anything. And then you're on the spells. The Vermintide. Someone's on a 7. Predatory on the spell, it can move 7 inches and set up within 13 of the caster, wholly within. Ravening Horde, after this model's moved, the player can move, the player that moved it can pick a unit within 3 and roll 13 dice on a 6 to take a mortal wound. In addition, roll 13 dice for each unit that finishes a normal move or a charge within 3. If you roll a 6, it's a mortal wound. And then Skaven, ignore it. Ratkin. Voracious Hunger, when this model's set up, it can immediately be moved. Warp Lightning Vortex casts on it's 3 models, sorry. Cast on an 8, only Skaven-Tide Wizards can attempt to cast it. If successfully cast, set up 1 Warp Lightning Vortex model wholly within 26 of the caster, and set up the 2nd and 3rd ones within 7, and exactly 7 from each other. So they have to make the big triangle, the Skaven triangle. Warp Lightning Bolts, when this model is set up, at the end of each movement phase, roll 1 dice for each unit within 6 inches of the models, from this endless spell. Of any models within 6 inches of the endless spell. Add 1 of the dice roll if that unit's within 6 inches of 2 or more models within the spell. Add 2 to the dice roll if 1 or more of that unit's within 6 inches of all 3 models. The closer they are to all 3, they take lots. On a 4+, take D3 mortal wounds. If it's an unmodified 6, it's D6 instead of D3. Units cannot run or fly when they make a normal move that starts within 6 inches of any models from this endless spell. And the Bell of Doom. It's a single model. Predatory, moves 13 and can fly. Summon the Bell. It's wholly within 13 of the caster when it's set up on a casting value of 6. Apocalyptic Doom. Roll 3d6 after this model is set up or finishes a move. On a roll of 13, each unit within 13 takes D3 mortal wounds and it's dispelled. Do not take Battleshock tests for Skaven-Tide units that are within 13 of the model. Subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of any other models that are within 13 of this model. So it's good for Skaven, bad for everybody else. And if you roll a 13, it explodes and does D3 mortal wounds everywhere. And this army, compared to the other one, the Flesh Eater Courts, has 2 whole pages of point values, which is bonkers. So you get your Plague Claw Catapult Artillery. It's 160. Warp Lightning Cannon, which 160 for 6 wound model. That's a lot. I mean, it is super dangerous, but they are really easy to kill. Warp Lightning Cannons, 180 points. Warplock Jezzails, 140 for 3. That makes sense. They are so good. Max 12. Clown Rats, 20 to 40. 120 or 200 at max. Oof. 40 point discount in their battle line. Doom Wheels, 160 for 1. Hellpit's 220 for 1. Arch Warlock is 160 for 1. Clawlord is 100 for 1. Deathmaster's 100 for 1. Gracier's 120 for 1. Master Molder's 100 for 1. Plague Priest is 80. And Scritch and his friends is 140. The Warlock Bombardier unit, or sorry, Warlock Bombardier character actually, sorry, is 100 for 1. Warlock Engineer's 100 for 1. Gracier on Screaming Bell is 200 for 1. Lord Screech the Vermin King is 300. So cheap. The Vermin Lords are actually really cheap, point-wise, for what they do. Plague Priest and Plague Furnace is 180. Thankful Bone Ripper is 400, which is good because he's crazy good. The Corruptor is 260. Deceiver is 300. Warbringer is 260. Warpseer is 260. And Little Doomfire Machini is 60. Giant Rats are 60 to 200 for 10 to 40. Gutter Runners are 60 to 200 for 5 to 20. And they're Battle Line for Molders or Battle Line for Clanation. But they're not, everything has to be that clan. Every unit has to be Clanation. So if you want to get Giant Rats and Gutter Runners as Battle Line, everything in the army also has to have that clan keyword. And then Night Runners 10 to 40 for 80 or 280. Again, all these battle lines, everything has to be the same clan. Packmasters are 3 for 60 points. So little character units are 3. Plague Sensor Bearers are 60, 5 for 20, or 5 to 20 for 60 each. Plague Monks are 10 to 40 for 70 or 240. So a little less of a discount for them now. We was taking 200. So 5 units at a discount of, what's 70 times for 280, so 40 points per unit. He was almost getting a free unit. It was 200 extra points he was getting, basically. Now, Rat Ogres 2 to 8 for 80 points, or 100 points. It's interesting they're in minimum 2. And I think the reason for that is the newer Rat Ogres that came in Island of Blood were in a unit of 2. So they might let you just use them as 2. Rat Swarms 2 to 8 for 60 each. Rattling Guns 1 to 1 for 80 each. Can only have maximum 1. Squire Acolytes 5 to 30 for 60 or 320. 60 each or up to 320. Storm Fiends are 3 up to 9 for 260 each. But you gotta have all Squire units. And then Stormwomen are always Battle Line in Skaven Tide. And they're 10 to 40 for 140 or 500 because they're pretty good. And then Warpfire Throwers are 70. Warp Grinders are 80. And all your battalions are 70 for 80 for Warp. Well, no, 160 for Congregation of Filth, which you're going to take for the 6+ Shrug. 160 for Fleshmeld Menagerie. 110 for Foul Rain Congregation. 180 for Claw Horde. Plague Smog Congregations 120. Slink Talons 160. Virulent Processions 100. And then the Engine Coven one, which is you have to buy it all as one, are 60 for the Warp Cog. Arc Spark is 110. Gasclad is 120. Goat Fire is 140, Rattle Gauge is Warplock, Whirlblade Threshneck is 130. And you have to take 2 of these at least. So like your cheapest one is going to be 170 points for that. And that's if you're taking the Warp Cog and the Arch Spark. And then your Endless Spells, Bella Doom is 40, Vermintide is 40, the Warp Lightning Vortex is 100, and the Nahul is free. And then Skaven Tide Allies, the only one are Nurgle if the General is Clan Pestilence. So you could take some Blight Kings. You could probably fit in a Great Unclean one for 400 points. That's not a bad ally, but only if your General's Clan Pestilence. But you do get Nurgle as an ally here, which is kind of neat. So the only Chaos allies you can have are the best Chaos allies. And that's it. Back to our Dwarden versus Skaven. And there it is, Battletome Skaven. So yeah, if you want to check out all the individual War Scrolls, they usually go up the weekend. Like I can't promise for up today, but they usually go up around the weekend of the pre-release and pre-orders going up, so you can go check them out. So feel free to go check them out, and if not, you can, I guess, just pause this video and try and look real close. I am filming it in 1080p, so you should be able to see what you want to see. Yeah, great book. I do like these books in the style of the Gloomspite Gits and now the Skaven, where they're taking basically all the stuff is under the same theme but has different keywords and making it into a book. So I hope they keep doing more of this. I'm really hoping we get one for Elves soon. I'd like to see one that forges all of the Tower of Hoth and what are they called? The bird folks. Swift Eagle, Swift Town, Swift something. The one that's all the Lothern stuff, basically. It's the Sea Guard and the Swift Riders, the birds, the bird chariots, all the nice high elf models that existed towards the end, and just make them into an army. I think that'd be cool. I'm sure when that happens, we'll get like the Tyrion and Teclis avatars, basically, like we had Nagash and Ilario as like the sort of like the demigods of their factions, because the model range is too nice to just, I think, molder. I love the Phoenix Guard. I love the Swordmaster. I already painted some Swordmasters for Skirmish and a Lore Master and Archmage, so I'd be excited to do the rest of the Swift Talk, that's what it was, Swift Talk stuff, and other elves. And of course, I'd like to see more redos too, like the Flesh Eater Courts book for things like Sylvaneth, and even the Crowd and Overlords, I think, need some new units, and just make them into a more interesting second edition army. So it's nice to see stuff getting sort of pulled up as quick as it is for second edition AOS. And the books are doing a good job of making the armies a little less one-dimensional, so you can play them different ways. So exciting times if you're a Skaven player. Go check it out. I hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you for another one in the future. Till next time, Ash, happy programming. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below so you get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Death Ray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.